The hollow projection flickered to life, emitting a crimson glow that filled Ambassador Varex's chambers. The warning was stark and unmistakable. Restricted. Class Omega civilization. Approach prohibited. The coordinates matched perfectly with the unassuming blue planet that had fascinated him for decades. Computer, verify classification parameters for Sol 3, Varex commanded, his four eyes narrowing in suspicion. Sol 3 designated Earth by natives. Classification, Omega 7. Quarantine enforced by Galactic Council Directive 1138. Approach forbidden to all non-authorized vessels. Violation punishable by immediate neutralization. Varex's pale skin flushed purple with frustration. In 300 cycles as diplomatic envoy to the Outer Rim, he'd encountered 17 quarantined worlds, but none with such severe restrictions, and none without an explanation. Display historical records for Earth's classification. Records classified. Authorization level presiding council only. This was unprecedented. Even the plague-riddled death world of Nix 6 had accessible quarantine documentation. What could possibly warrant such secrecy around a seemingly unremarkable planet? 7 light-years away, Fleet Commander Orvex slouched in her command chair aboard the hegemony warship Inevitable Dominance. Her mandibles clicked impatiently as she studied Earth through the viewscreen. Such a primitive backwater, she muttered. Their most advanced vessels barely reach their neighboring planet. Lieutenant Krex maintained perfect posture beside her. Appearances can be deceiving, Commander. Intelligence suggests caution. Intelligence always suggests caution, Orvex interrupted. We've conquered 67 worlds more advanced than this one. Yet this is the only planet with an Omega classification that the Council refuses to explain, Krex noted. Orvex's compound eyes gleamed with ambition. Which is precisely why we're here. Whatever secret Earth holds must be valuable beyond measure. Ready the scout ships. Dr. Elawan Merrick hadn't slept in 36 hours. The observatory's sensors had detected anomalous readings, artificial structures decelerating at the edge of the solar system, structures that weren't human in origin. General Casimir needs to see this, she whispered, downloading the data to her secure tablet. Her colleague, Dr. Ravi Vashir, looked over her shoulder. They're being careful to stay beyond Neptune's orbit, following the treaty to the letter. But pushing its boundaries, Elawan replied. This is the closest approach in 15 years. Ravi's expression darkened. You don't think they're planning to? I don't know. But we need to alert the Defense Council immediately. As they hurried toward the exit, neither noticed the small maintenance drone in the corner. Its cameras focusing on their retreating figures, transmitting to a receiver far beyond Earth's atmosphere. Ambassador Varex was startled when his private terminal chimed with an encrypted message. The sender, Presiding Counselor Zenith himself. Your inquiry regarding Sol 3 has been noted. Meet me at the archives. Highest discretion required. Varex felt his heart's race. The presiding counselor personally responding to a routine query? Something was terribly wrong. The archives were deserted when Varex arrived. Counselor Zenith waited in the restricted section, looking uncharacteristically worried. Ambassador, pure curiosity could get you killed, Zenith began without preamble. Respectfully, Counselor. As diplomatic liaison to 17 systems near Earth, I should understand why it's forbidden territory. Zenith gestured to a sealed door. What I'm about to show you never leaves this room. The classification exists, for a reason, to protect our civilization. The vault door hissed open, revealing a simple data terminal. Zenith activated it with his highest clearance code. 200 cycles ago, we attempted first contact with Earth. Standard protocol, a small delegation to their world government. What happened next? Zenith's voice faltered. It's the reason Earth remains quarantined to this day. The screen illuminated with footage that made Varex's blood run cold. The timestamp read, 2031 AD, Earth calendar. The recording showed a standard first contact team, 5 diplomats from different council races, approaching a nondescript human military base. The initial meeting seemed cordial, with humans in formal attire greeting the visitors. Then, without warning, everything changed. An explosion tore through the delegation. The footage became chaotic, screaming, weapons fire, and the horrifying sight of Ambassador Galaxy, a respected peacemaker, falling to primitive human bullets. "This can't be right," Varix whispered. Unprovoked aggression against a diplomatic team. The council would have authorized immediate intervention. Zenith shook his head. "Keep watching." The footage continued. The surviving diplomats retreated to their ship, but didn't flee. Instead, they activated something. A small device unremarkable in appearance. The sensors recording the incident registered an immense energy spike before transmission abruptly ended. New footage appeared, orbital views showing a massive crater where the human facility had been. The diplomats triggered a quantum destabilizer, Zenith explained. A precautionary measure for hostile first contacts. It should have eliminated all evidence and neutralized approximately 3 square kilometers. The next images showed the crater, healing, plants growing at impossible speeds, structures rebuilding themselves, and humans, unharmed humans, walking through radiation that should have been lethal. "Impossible," Varix breathed. "That was our reaction," Zenith replied grimly. "We sent a research vessel to investigate discreetly. It disappeared. Then we sent a military cruiser. It transmitted one message before we lost contact." Zenith activated another recording. A panicked captain appeared on screen. "They're inside the ship. The humans, they're not dying. Weapons have no effect. They're absorbing the..." Static consumed the transmission. "We lost 3 more ships before implementing the quarantine," Zenith concluded. "Whatever these humans are, they defy our understanding of physics and biology." Aboard the inevitable Dominance, Commander Orvex watched as the scout ship departed for Earth. "Maintain continuous transmission," she ordered. "At first sign of unusual activity, retreat immediately." Lieutenant Craig studied the readouts with growing concern. "Commander, we're detecting unusual energy signatures from the 3rd planet, similar to quantum field manipulations, but different." "Different how?" "They appear to be originating from the humans themselves." Orvex clicked her mandibles thoughtfully. "Perhaps this explains the quarantine. Should we recall the scout ship?" "No. We need confirmation. The hegemony doesn't believe in ghost stories." In the Pentagon's deepest level, Elowen and Ravi presented their findings to the Earth Defense Council. "The hegemony vessel has dispatched a scout ship," Elowen reported. "They're testing our response." General Casimir, a weathered woman with steel-gray hair, nodded gravely. "Trajectory? Antarctic Research Station Olympus. Minimal population, isolated location. They're being cautious." Admiral Renner, the oldest member present, sighed heavily. 15 years of peace. I'd hoped the rumors had died down." "They never do," countered Director Vega from Intelligence. "Every species that discovers us eventually gets curious about the forbidden planet." Ravi cleared his throat. "The question is, do we activate Protocol Lazarus?" The room fell silent. Protocol Lazarus, humanity's closest guarded secret and most fearsome defense. "Not yet," General Casimir decided. "First, we attempt communication, remind them of the treaty. If they withdraw, no harm done." "And if they don't?" Elowen asked. "Then, we show them why Earth is off limits." Varix stared at the classified records, his mind reeling. This still doesn't explain the Omega classification. Hostile species aren't uncommon. "It's not their hostility that concerns us," Zenith replied. "It's what happened after." He activated a final recording, a laboratory analysis of samples collected from orbit around Earth. The scientist in the recording spoke quickly. "The humans appear to have developed a symbiotic relationship with nanomachines of unknown origin. These machines respond to conscious and unconscious commands, altering physical reality at the quantum level. Self-healing, matter manipulation, energy absorption, their potential capabilities are theoretically limitless. They've integrated technology with their biology?" Varix asked, horrified. "Not technology as we understand it. Something far more advanced. Something that responds to their thoughts and emotions." something that makes them virtually indestructible. Zenith's voice dropped to a whisper, and it's evolving. The scout ship from the inevitable dominance breached Earth's atmosphere under cover of darkness, its stealth systems rendering it virtually undetectable to conventional scanners. It glided silently over the frozen Antarctic landscape toward Research Station Olympus. Inside the small vessel, Scout Commander Drelks studied the readings with growing excitement. Atmospheric composition within acceptable parameters. Radiation levels normal. No sign of the alleged anomalies. Sensor sweep complete, reported Navigator Mizek. The facility below houses 27 humans and minimal defenses. Perfect. Extraction opportunity. Drelks had been handpicked for this mission. After 60 successful infiltrations across the galaxy, she was considered the hegemony's finest acquisition specialist. Her orders were simple. Capture one human specimen for study, begin descent, precision landing on the northeastern perimeter. The scout ship touched down half a kilometer from the research station. Icy winds battered against the hull as the small team prepared for extraction. Their exosuits were designed to withstand the harsh conditions and conceal their non-human physiology. Remember, Drelks instructed, we need the specimen alive and undamaged. No heroics. Inside Station Olympus, Dr. Novak Riker was the first to notice the subtle vibration in his coffee cup. The dark liquid formed concentric ripples that shouldn't exist in the station's stabilized environment. His companion, Engineer Tempest Lachlan, spotted his concerned expression. What is it? We have visitors, Novak said quietly, tapping his temple in a meaningful gesture. Tempest's eyes widened slightly as she activated her neural interface. Instantly, she perceived what standard sensors couldn't detect. The quantum displacement signature of a cloaked vessel. Arctic Protocol? She asked, her voice barely audible. Novak nodded, casually rising from the table. I'll alert Heimdall. Get everyone to the safe room. As Tempest began quietly gathering the other researchers, Novak stepped into the communications booth and pressed his palm against an unmarked section of wall. The scanner read, not his fingerprints, but the unique quantum signature of his nanite. Symbiosis. Olympus to Heimdall. Condition frost. I repeat, condition frost. The response came immediately. Confirmed, Olympus. Countermeasures authorized. Defense Council notified. Hold position. In the Pentagon, alarms blared as condition frost flashed across secure terminals. General Casimir rushed into the command center where Eloan and Ravi were already analyzing incoming data. Status? Casimir demanded. Hegemony scout ship landed near Olympus, Eloan reported. Small team deploying, likely an extraction team based on equipment profiles. Casimir's expression hardened. They're hunting specimens. Activate Sentinel. Protocol. Authorization Casimir 7 Delta Phoenix. Ravi's fingers flew across the control panel. Sentinel drones deploying. ETA 3 minutes. Too long, Casimir muttered. What personnel do we have at Olympus? Dr. Riker and Engineer Lachlan are both Lazarus enhanced. The others are standard personnel. Casimir nodded grimly. Alert Riker and Lachlan. Defensive measures only. We want to resolve this without revealing our capabilities if possible. Ambassador Varix left the archives with his mind in turmoil. The information about Earth defied everything he understood about technological development. A species that had somehow bonded with quantum-level nanomachines, giving them abilities that bordered on the supernatural. The consequences of this information spreading would be catastrophic, Zenith had warned him. Imagine every warlord and despot in the galaxy attempting to acquire a human specimen. The resulting arms race would destabilize the entire council. Now, returning to his quarters, Varix found himself questioning everything. If humans possess such incredible technology, why hadn't they expanded beyond their solar system? Why maintain the illusion of being a primitive, isolated species? Unless Varix activated his terminal and bypassed the official records, accessing astronomical survey data instead. He plotted the locations of every unexplained ship disappearance over the past century, not just council vessels, but traders, explorers, and even pirate ships. A pattern emerged. Dozens of disappearances in seemingly random locations across 7 sectors. But when he applied a simple algorithm to account for stellar drift over time, "By the ancestors," he whispered. Every disappearance had occurred along direct flight, paths that would eventually reach Earth. They weren't just defending their planet. They were establishing a perimeter spanning light years. Varex's terminal chimed with a priority alert. A hegemony warship had been detected near the Sol system. The extraction team moved with practiced precision through the Antarctic night. Drelks led the 5-member squad toward Station Olympus, their thermal imaging revealing the human occupants gathering in the central section of the facility. "They're consolidating," Drelks observed. "Have we been detected?" "Impossible," insisted Technician Vorla. "Our cloaking technology exceeds anything these humans possess." As they approached the station's outer doors, Drelks felt an uncharacteristic twinge of unease. The mission was proceeding too smoothly. The legendary quarantine, the ominous warnings, all seemed excessive for this primitive outpost with its simple defenses. "Cut through here," she ordered, indicating a maintenance entrance. Vorla applied a molecular disruptor to the lock mechanism, and the door slid open silently. The team entered the darkened corridor, weapons ready. The station's interior was unexpectedly warm, filled with scientific equipment and living quarters that seemed remarkably ordinary. "Life signs?" Drelks whispered. 25 humans in the central chamber," reported Tracker Imzel. 2 others moving separately. He indicated a schematic on his wrist device. "These 2 are isolated. Easier targets." Drelks nodded. "We'll take them both. Move out." The squad split into 2 teams moving silently through the corridors. Drelks led 3 soldiers toward the nearest target, while Vorla and Imzel pursued the second. Novak Riker sensed them coming. The nanites in his system registered the subtle electromagnetic disruptions of alien technology, feeding the information directly to his consciousness. He stood calmly in the laboratory, appearing to work on routine samples while tracking the intruder's approach. His neural link pulsed with an incoming message from Tempest. 4 heading your way, 3 approaching me. Standard containment, Novak. Subvocalized his response. Confirmed. No casualties if possible. He continued his work, presenting the perfect image of an unaware human scientist, even as his nanites prepared for the coming confrontation. In orbit above Earth, 12 sleek black satellites silently adjusted their positions. These were the Sentinels, humanity's automated defense system. Undetectable by conventional means, they had monitored Earth's perimeter for decades. Now they triangulated on the hegemony scout ship and its mothership lurking at the system's edge. Data flowed to the Defense Council Command Center, where Elowen and General Casimir watched the situation unfold. "Sentinel intercept ready," Elowen reported. "Awaiting your command." Casimir studied the tactical display. "Hold position. Let's see how Riker and Lachlan handle this first. We might resolve this quietly." Ravi looked concerned. "And if the hegemony ship decides to intervene? Then they'll learn why we've been left alone for 15 years. Ambassador Varex made a decision that could end his career, or worse." He transmitted an emergency diplomatic signal directly to the hegemony vessel, bypassing normal protocols. "This is Council Ambassador Varex to hegemony vessel near Sol system. You are violating Galactic Council Directive 11938. Withdraw immediately." Commander Orvex's response was predictably dismissive. "Ambassador, we're conducting authorized surveys well outside the quarantine perimeter. Your scout ship has landed on Earth. This is a direct violation that threatens interstellar peace." A pause. Then, "Your concern is noted, Ambassador. However, the hegemony does not recognize restrictions without explanation. If the Council wishes compliance, it must provide justification." "The justification is classified for your protection," Varex insisted, growing desperate. "Your team is in grave danger. Recall them immediately." Orvex's mandibles clicked in amusement. "Fear tactics, Ambassador. Unbecoming of a Council representative. We'll continue our research." The transmission ended. Varric slumped in his chair, knowing what would come next. In desperation, he composed a message to Counselor Zenith. Hegemony vessel at Sol. Extraction team on Earth. Diplomatic intervention failed. Request emergency response. Drelx sensed the trap too late. The human scientist hadn't moved, hadn't even looked up from his work as they entered the laboratory. Her squad had him surrounded, weapons trained on his vital points, when he finally spoke. "I wouldn't do that if I were you." The words weren't threatening, almost conversational, but something in his tone made Drelx hesitate. "Human," she announced, "you are being collected for scientific study. Compliance will ensure your comfort." The scientist, Novak, finally looked up, seeming more curious than frightened. "That's not how this works. You're in violation of the Treaty of Proxima. I'm obligated to offer you one chance to return to your vessel and leave our system." Drelx was momentarily taken aback by his composure, but quickly recovered. "Sedate him," she ordered. The soldier beside her raised his injector and suddenly couldn't move. None of them could. An invisible force held them perfectly immobilized, weapons frozen in their grasps. Novak sighed and set down his equipment. They never take the easy option. He tapped his temple and subvocalized to Tempest. "How's your group contained?" came the reply. "No injuries on either side." "Now then," Novak said, addressing his captive audience, "let's have a proper conversation about why Earth is off limits." The paralysis holding Drelx and her team wasn't painful, but it was absolute. She could breathe and blink, nothing more. The human scientist approached them with casual confidence, examining them with genuine curiosity. "Hegemony, judging by your equipment," Novak observed. "You're not the first to ignore our warnings." He circled the immobilized aliens, studying their technology. "Your species has a remarkable reputation for persistence. Unfortunately, that won't help you here." Drelx struggled against the invisible restraint, managing only the slightest twitch of her mandibles. "What are you?" "Human," Novak replied simply. "Though I understand your confusion. What's happening exceeds your understanding of physics." He gestured around them, and suddenly the air was filled with swirling patterns of light, nanites making themselves visible, forming complex geometric structures that shifted with his thoughts. 2 centuries ago, humanity faced extinction from a cascading climate collapse. In our desperation, we attempted to engineer atmospheric nanites to repair the damage. Something went wrong, or incredibly right, depending on your perspective. The patterns of light coalesced around Novak's hand, forming a miniature replica of Earth that rotated slowly. The nanites became symbiotic, integrating with human biology at the quantum level. They evolved beyond their original programming, responding to our consciousness itself. What began as an environmental salvation became an evolutionary leap. The miniature Earth in his hand dissolved, the nanites flowing back into the air. We've maintained the illusion of being an ordinary species because we understand the alternative: war, exploitation, the destabilization of galactic peace. Novak's expression hardened. "Which brings us to your current predicament." Aboard the inevitable dominance, Commander Orvex was growing concerned. The extraction team hadn't reported in for 30 minutes, well past their scheduled check-in. "Attempt contact again," she ordered Lieutenant Krex. "No response, Commander. All channels are being blocked." Orvex clicked her mandibles in frustration. "Prepare a retrieval team. We'll send a larger force." "Commander," Krex interjected, "sensors are detecting unusual energy signatures emanating from the planet's surface, centered on the research station." Before Orvex could respond, the ship's alarms blared. "Multiple objects approaching, unidentified. Craft on intercept course." The view screen displayed 12 sleek black satellites converging on their position. "Defensive posture," Orvex commanded. "Weapon systems online." "The objects aren't slowing," reported the tactical officer. "Impact in 30 seconds. Fire at will." The inevitable dominance unleashed its formidable arsenal. Energy beams lanced out toward the approaching satellites and passed harmlessly through them. Direct hits registered, but no effect. Orvex watched in disbelief as the satellites penetrated the ship's shields as if they weren't there. Instead of impact, they phased through the hull, materializing inside the vessel. Throughout the massive warship, the black satellites hovered. In key locations, the bridge, engineering, weapons control, life support. From each, a holographic figure appeared, a stern-faced human woman in military attire. On the bridge, the hologram addressed Orvex directly. "This is General Casimir of Earth Defense Command. Your vessel has violated the Treaty of Proxima. Your extraction team has been detained. Stand down and prepare for communication." In the Pentagon Command Center, Eloan watched as the Sentinel drones successfully deployed throughout the hegemony vessel. "Phase shift integration complete," she reported. "All critical systems accessed. We have full control of their ship." General Casimir nodded grimly. "Open a direct channel to their commander." The main screen flickered to life, showing the insectoid, features of Commander Orvex. Her compound eyes reflected shock and outrage. "This is an act of war," Orvex chittered. The hegemony will do nothing," Casimir interrupted calmly. "Your vessel is currently under our control. Your engines, weapons, and life support operate at our discretion." "Impossible," Orvex hissed. "No technology exists that could—" "Your extraction team is currently discovering exactly how possible it is," Casimir continued. "Now, we have two options. First, we return your team, you leave our system immediately, and report that Earth contains nothing of value. Second, we demonstrate exactly why Earth is quarantined, and no one returns to the hegemony." The commander's mandibles twitched in what might have been fear. "You're bluffing." General Casimir's expression didn't change. "Lieutenant, reduce their life support efficiency by 30%. Across the hegemony vessel, the air suddenly thinned. Orvex gasped, feeling the immediate effect. "This is merely a demonstration," Casimir explained. "Our capabilities extend far beyond this minor inconvenience." Ambassador Varix received an unexpected communication from Counselor Zenith. Emergency council session convened. Your presence required immediately. When Varix arrived at the council chambers, he found the full presiding council assembled, 12 of the most powerful individuals in the galaxy. Zenith gestured him forward. "Ambassador, you've studied Earth extensively. We need your insight on the current situation." "The hegemony ship," Varix began, "has been neutralized," another counselor interrupted. "But the situation has escalated, beyond our expectations." Zenith activated the central display, showing a star map of council space. Throughout the map, hundreds of points suddenly illuminated. These appeared simultaneously across 27 sectors. Zenith explained grimly, "Quantum-linked devices of unknown origin, but with energy signatures matching those recorded near Earth." Varix felt a chill run through him. "They've been preparing." "Preparing for what, Ambassador?" "For this moment," Varix replied, understanding dawning. "When someone finally pushed too far." Novak Riker stood before the captured extraction team, who remained immobilized but fully conscious. Behind him, Tempest Lachlan entered with her own group of prisoners. "The Sentinels have secured their ship," she reported. "Defense Council is in direct communication with their commander." Novak nodded. "Perfect timing. I was just explaining our situation to our visitors." He turned back to Drelx. 2 centuries of isolation have given us time to prepare. The nanite symbiosis has evolved further than you can imagine. We can manipulate matter, energy, even space-time on a fundamental level. With a gesture, he released the paralysis holding. The aliens. They staggered slightly but made no aggressive moves, their weapons having been mysteriously transformed into inert lumps of metal. "Why reveal this now?" Drelx asked, mandibles clicking nervously. "If secrecy was your protection—" "Because isolation is no longer sustainable," Tempest interjected. "Your intrusion was inevitable, as were others. The galaxy grows smaller every cycle." Novak's expression became solemn. "We've reached a decision point. Continue the charade of being a primitive species while eliminating every threat, or reveal ourselves and establish a new paradigm." The laboratory walls suddenly dissolved, revealing a vast chamber beneath the research station. Hundreds of humans worked at advanced consoles surrounded by swirling clouds of visible nanites. At the center stood an enormous structure pulsing with energy, a quantum-fold gateway. What you're witnessing is just one of thousands of facilities across Earth and throughout our solar system, Novak explained. For generations we've prepared for the moment when secrecy would no longer serve. In the council chambers, Ambassador Barracks watched with growing alarm as more reports flooded in. The quantum devices detected across council space had done nothing hostile. They simply existed, their purpose unknown but their message clear. Earth's reach extended far beyond its isolated world. They've been watching us, Barracks realized aloud. Studying our civilizations, learning our languages, understanding our cultures, all while we thought they were quarantined. Zenith nodded gravely. The question remains, what do they want? A communication request flashed on the Council's primary display. The source: Earth. After a moment of stunned silence, Zenith authorized the connection. The holographic figure that appeared surprised everyone. Not a military commander or political leader, but an ordinary-looking human female with auburn hair and piercing gray eyes. Greetings, Presiding Council. I am Dr. Elowen Merrick, representing Earth's Defense Council. We request an emergency session to discuss the immediate future of galactic relations. Zenith found his voice first. Earth has maintained isolation for 2 centuries. Why reach out now? Because the hegemony's actions have forced our hand, Elowen replied calmly. The illusion of Earth as a primitive world can no longer be maintained. We prefer to negotiate terms of integration rather than continuing a policy of elimination. The implication hung heavy in the air. How many ships and species had Earth eliminated to maintain its secret? We are prepared to share certain aspects of our technology, Elowen continued. Particularly applications for environmental restoration, medical advancement, and sustainable energy. In exchange, we require guaranteed sovereignty and non-interference. Aboard the inevitable dominance, Commander Orvex watched helplessly as her mighty warship remained under external control. The human general, Casimir, remained on screen, waiting for her decision. You realize, Orvex said carefully, that I cannot speak for the entire hegemony. We're not asking you to, Casimir replied. Your role is simpler: survive to deliver a message. The ship's system suddenly returned to normal, life support restored to full capacity. Your extraction team will be returned shortly. When they arrive, depart from this system immediately. Report to your superiors exactly what you've witnessed. Casimir's expression hardened. Make it abundantly clear that any further incursions will be met with consequences far beyond today's demonstration. Orvex's pride warred with her instinct for survival. And if I refuse? That would be unfortunate, Casimir replied evenly. The nanites currently integrated with your ship's systems could rearrange its atomic structure in rather creative ways. Perhaps a demonstration? Before Orvex could respond, she watched in horror as the solid metal of her command console briefly turned to liquid, flowing into a perfect scale model of Earth before reforming into the console. We'll comply, she said, quickly. In the Antarctic research station, Drelx and her team were being escorted back to their scout ship. Novak walked alongside them, continuing his explanation. Today marks a turning point, not just for Earth, but for the galaxy. We've chosen a path of integration rather than continued isolation. Why? Drelx asked, genuinely curious. With your capabilities, you could conquer rather than cooperate, Novak smiled sadly. We tried that approach 2 centuries ago when the nanite symbiosis first manifested. It nearly destroyed us. Power without wisdom is a path to extinction. They reached the scout ship, finding it exactly as they'd left it. Your vessel is unaltered, Novak assured them. Return to your mothership and deliver our message. Earth is no longer hiding, but neither are we vulnerable. We seek cooperation, not domination. As Drelx prepared to board, she hesitated. The quarantine signs. Why maintain them if you were already watching us? Sometimes, Novak replied, the simplest warnings are the most effective. Keep out is universally understood, but understanding why you should keep out That requires a different approach. 6 months later, Ambassador Varric stood on the observation deck of the Council's new embassy on Earth. The sprawling facility had been constructed in days by nanite swarms that assembled matter from raw elements. Below, the landscape of what humans called New Zealand stretched out in breathtaking beauty. The door slid open, admitting Dr. Elowen Merrick, now Earth's official representative to the Galactic Council. "Ambassador?" She greeted him warmly. "Enjoying the view?" "It's remarkable," Varric admitted, "though I'm still adjusting to the knowledge that everything I see could be rearranged at the quantum level by human thought." Elowen laughed. "Only certain humans with specific training. We learned long ago that power requires restraint, yet you maintained the illusion of being powerless for centuries. Not powerless, developing. There's a difference." She gazed out at the landscape. "We needed time to understand what we'd become, to establish ethical frameworks for our new capabilities. The isolation wasn't just to protect us from you, it was to protect you from us until we were ready." Varric considered this. "And the warning signs? The quarantine?" Elowen smiled enigmatically. "Sometimes the most effective boundary is the one people impose on themselves out of fear of the unknown. The quarantine worked because species like yours respected it, which told us exactly which civilizations were ready for contact." As they watched the sunset paint the mountains in brilliant gold, Varric understood at last. Earth hadn't been off limits because humans were dangerous, though they certainly could be. Earth had been off limits because humanity had been waiting for the right moment and the right emissaries to share their remarkable evolution with the stars. The mystery of Earth's quarantine was indeed uncovered, not as a tale of terror, but as a story of cautious hope for a shared future.